Today I'm taking you with me to find a train station that's in the wrong country. We'll be discovering why that happened and how it affects people's lives.
Not too long ago, I'd only be allowed to travel this route in a sealed carriage with all of the doors and windows locked and a team of armed security guards.
That's how bizarre and contested this border has been, with everyone from Churchill to Merkel suggesting different plans to untangle it. It's only since 2007 that you can freely travel to this remote area and learn if any of those ideas helped, and why it's still so complicated that it would supposedly cost hundreds of millions of dollars to find a proper solution to this mess.
And just before I arrive, if you have the type of curious brain that's always learning new things, then you will love the sponsor that made today's journey and today's video possible, which is the book.
This beauty was released by Hungry Minds and contains over 400 pages of hand-drawn illustrations, guiding you on a journey through humanity's greatest inventions and discoveries. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding a Civilization, and it's really the most fantastic luxury coffee table book, which makes it a perfect treat for yourself or a gift for that curious person in your life. Well, now here's a section for today's video. Steam engines and the railroad. Seriously, every time I open it, I go down a different rabbit hole that I never knew existed. And that is such a welcome form of escapism from doom scrolling to get properly engrossed in an actual work of art and science like this instead. I love the attention to detail. This must have taken so long to make, and this is all done by humans without AI. It's also full of these little Easter eggs and treasure hunts which I can't spoil for you, but while you're reading it, it really does pull you in.
And the best part is that they're offering viewers of this channel 10% off the book using the link in the description and the discount code TOM.
I'm in Germany, heading out towards the farthest eastern parts of the country, a glorious and peaceful area on a day like this, but I'm about to learn that it's seen some pretty significant events over the years. This German railway line that I'm on, that runs between two German cities, that's only used by German trains and only accepts German tickets, has one station that's in the wrong country. And it's this one across from me named Krzywina Zgorzelecka.
Right now, I'm stood in the town that it serves, which is in Germany. But to actually get on the train, you have to cross this bridge behind me over the river, which is an international border, and get on at the station, which is in Poland. So why? How did this happen? And why did this tiny bridge cause such a nightmare for the local population?
The small town I'm in on the German side of the border is called Ostritz, home to around 2,000 people, and it really is historically German.
It's what the English might call a very nice little town that's seen better days.
During the peak railway construction boom in the late 1800s, a new line was planned linking two of the major cities in this part of Germany. Little Ostritz happens to sit right between them and was significant enough to be included as a stop. The terrain though presented some challenges. The planned new line would follow the valley of the Western Neisse River, which was neither nice and flat nor nice and straight. The trek need only be 25 kilometers long, and it can start and end on the western side of the valley, but the river winds so much that even making that work requires plenty of new bridges, rock blasting into the banks, and even at times artificially rerouting the river. So to save money on doing any more of that, they decide to simply run the middle section of it around the worst of those bends on the eastern side of the river, and they say to the people of Ostritz, well, you wanted a station where you can get on and off the train that's near to where you live. Look at this, what a beautiful location, just a few short steps across this lovely river. P.S. This lovely river will never become an extremely contested international border that's blocked off by men with guns.
But it's actually not fair to make fun, because we are looking at this with so much hindsight. The question of how far east you can go before Germany stops and another country begins has been involved in a few major arguments over the years, some of which you may have heard of. But the thing is that when this railway line first opened in 1875, it didn't look that way at all. Prussia and all of the other various Germanic mini-states had finally just unified into one country known as Germany, ruled by a guy known as the Kaiser. And since in those days it included vast parts of what is now Poland, this town that I'm in right now, Ostritz, and that whole new railway line sat firmly in the middle of the empire. You would have needed a crystal ball to foresee that this bridge would soon need an armed guard.
At the end of the second big argument, key decision makers faced a huge call. Yes, Poland was going to become a new country afterwards, but where exactly? What should its precise borders look like? They had already messed with this border once before and cut Danzig out of it, which hardly seemed to keep the peace, so they knew that they had to do better this time. There were two major ideas, one coming from the Soviets and one from Churchill. Let's review first the Soviet plan, which was this. Let Poland have the city formerly known as Stettin, then draw a line following first the Oder River, then the western branch of the Neisse, down until you hit the Czech border. West of that line is Germany, and east of it is Poland.
This, of course, is the line that actually ended up happening, which is why this river is the border. And at first, that completely closed this station, since it sits on Polish soil, but doesn't serve any Polish railways, until the government of East Germany convinced Poland to let them still run trains along these tracks under very strict conditions. Before leaving the final stop on the German side, the conductors had to go around sealing all of the windows and doors, locking everything shut, and they would not be reopened until they re-entered German territory again, which they would do without making any stops at all. So trains were again passing through here, solving the problem of connecting the two cities at the opposite ends of the line, without any risk of East Germans escaping or collaborating or communicating with the Poles. But, of course, it still didn't solve the problem for the people and the companies of Ostritz. They were still completely cut off from the railways by this border. When a landmark agreement was reached to try to ease this situation in 1959, the Cold War scenes here only got more dramatic.
If a German passenger wanted to alight here to get home, the conductor would unlock one carriage door and hand the passenger over to armed personnel of the Polish Border Protection Forces, who would wait on the platform for them, escort them the laughably short distance over this footbridge, through a passport check and into the German town. And this new border landed plenty of German towns in similar situations, like Görlitz being split in half and some children waking up one day with the border between them and their school, and other cities having the residential areas on one side of the line and the waterworks serving them on the other. After 30 years of this dance, the Berlin Wall did fall, but scenes were still strict here on the Ostritz Bridge, if with slightly less intimidation theatrics.
As late as 2007, this place was still staffed for formal passport and customs checks. And in many parts of the world, that would still be the case today. But here in Central Europe, the Schengen Agreement has attempted to smooth out many of these nuisances for people living in border regions. Since Poland joined in 2007, although you do still need to carry your documents in case you get checked, you can assume that you'll be able to freely come and go along this bridge.
With relations thus massively improved since the second big argument, the Merkel government went around signing a ton of legislation easing out various annoyances like this all along the border zone, and clarifying who's responsible for repairing which bridge and who's allowed to go fishing where.
So why did I suggest that that's still not a perfect solution?
Well, consider that this station is on Polish soil, but all the destinations are in another country, ticket money is collected by another country, and all of the passengers are trying to get somewhere else in another country. So if there's any maintenance to be done, is it really at the top of Poland's priorities? And equally, despite both being EU countries, if Germany wants to repair something themselves, this is always going to be the station and the section of track that incurs the most red tape and the most expense, because they are technically sending their engineers on an international work trip. In 2010, after a catastrophic flood and a massively drawn-out repairs project, investigations into completely moving the line to the German side found that now it would take so much new land acquisition, permits in environmentally protected zones, new bridges and tunnels, that the cost would be measured in the hundreds of millions. You can see why remaining Schengen friends with Poland is a much simpler solution.
So, what about the other path they could have gone down? Britain's idea for the border was this: Stettin, Oder River, and then follow the eastern Neisse. So this would have expanded today's Germany and shrunk today's Poland. There had previously been many German speakers living in this little corner, and so Churchill famously said that it would be a pity to stuff the Polish goose so full of Germans that it got indigestion. But he lost that particular debate since Poland had already lost so much land in the east. That plan would have left major Polish cities like Wrocław and a big part of the Polish industrial heartland within Germany. And if we've learned anything from those big two arguments, it's that not going with that plan was probably a very good idea. Yes, you may end up with nerdy geography videos about little nuisances, like this train station being in the wrong country, but relatively speaking, that is a very, very small problem. If you like this, then make sure to subscribe for more, and don't forget to pick up your copy of the book at the link in the description.